How are you going to improve your IELTS score? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you the information you need to achieve that. To prepare for this video, I read books, I read articles on IELTS speaking, and I also spoke to an IELTS examiner to get the inside information just for you. Firstly, if you haven't taken the IELTS speaking before, here is a quick overview of what you will have to do. There are 3 parts to the exam. Part 1 deals with familiar topics, so you might be asked questions about your family or your home. In Part 2, you're given 1 minute to prepare for a short monologue, for which you'll have to speak for around 2 minutes. Then, in Part 3, you'll be asked questions that are connected to what you talked about in Part 2. Okay, so here are the tips for Part 1. And I spoke to an IELTS examiner about this. Although Part 1 is about a familiar topic such as home or school or work, sometimes you might get something that's unexpected, like talking about laughter or talking about being late. The IELTS examiner told me that this can make some students get confused because they were expecting a different topic. So the tip is, be ready for a familiar topic, but don't worry if it's something you're not expecting. Just take a deep breath and do your best. Here are some tips for Part 2 of the exam. Part 2 is a monologue. That means you're going to have to speak at length for around 2 minutes. In order to organize your thoughts and your ideas, try to use sequencing and signposting. This simply means you use phrases such as, I'd like to talk about, firstly, the first advantage, the first problem, now let's move to, next, in conclusion. When you use these phrases, it helps you to organize your ideas, but also it makes it easier for the person listening to understand what you're talking about. The next tip for Part 2 is, in the monologue, don't stop talking. The IELTS examiner told me if you hesitate too much, if you have long spaces or pauses when you speak, this could cause your level to go down by even 1 band, which is a lot. So keep talking, focus, and keep going. Here's a tip for Part 3 of the exam. In Part 3, the examiner will ask you questions about what you talked about in Part 2. So, be ready to develop and expand your answers in Part 3. You will need to discuss your ideas and provide as many examples as you can. Here are some general tips that can be applied to all parts of the IELTS exam. Firstly, keep talking. If you get lost when you're speaking, don't stop. Just rearrange your ideas and keep going. The examiner is listening to the grammar patterns, the phrases, and the words that you use. The topic that you're talking about isn't really as important as all those other things. Next, don't focus on specific topics when you are practicing for the exam. Practice talking about a wide range of topics and don't focus down on a few things only. You will not be able to predict what they ask you. So if you have experience talking about a wide range of topics, it'll make it easier for you when it comes to the exam. Also, use different grammar points. To move into the higher band range, you have to show the examiner that you know various different grammar points. For this, I would suggest reviewing more complex grammar points like passive and perfect tenses. You will need to show the examiner that you understand and you can use some natural expressions when you speak. And these can include idioms, phrasal verbs, or any other natural expression. A big point in the test is remember not to too much. It's important not to use too many fillers like and because we generally use these when we don't know what to say. Instead, use these phrases. That's an interesting question. Let me see. Let me think about that for a minute. Well, some people say that is the case. However, I think these phrases are the same as saying or are, but they give you a little bit more time to think about your answer and they won't lower your score. Finally, be you. Don't worry about your accent. What is important to the examiner is they can understand what you are saying. Your accent makes you special, so keep it. Just work on intelligibility, which means making the words understandable to the listener. So if you have any specific grammar patterns or vocabulary words you find difficult to say, focus on these and practice these at home. Okay, that's it for today. If you think I've missed any important tips, please put them in the comments below, because this is really going to help everyone out there who needs to take this IELTS speaking exam. Okay, thanks and see you next time.